Good morning and welcome to Three Crosses Wood Carving. My name is Gary McDaniel and I am Three Crosses Wood Carving, and we're going to attempt to do a series of tutorials about carving faces. I'm going to start with an eye tutorial, and I'm going to show you today how to carve a realistic looking eye. The tools I'm going to be using are a 1.5 to 3 millimeter veiner or a U-gouge. Depending on the size of eye you're going to carve, you'll use either one of those tools. Or if you don't have a veiner or a U-gouge, you can use a 1.5 to 3 millimeter V-tool. I also will be using a very sharp detail knife, and I can't stress that all your tools need to be very sharp. And also sometimes I use a small skew when I'm rounding the eye. It seems to work better. So just follow along, and there'll be a series of slides come up here in a minute, and I'll be talking about each one. If you just do it step by step, you'll learn how to create a very realistic looking eye. Okay, let's get started. In this first slide, you'll notice first of all that I dug out a little cavity. I'm using a flat board to do this demonstration, but I wanted to show you that this is the eye socket. When you're naturally carving of a face, you will have an eye socket laid out before you start this. And you'll notice that right in the center of it I drew a horizontal line. Well, that is the center line of your eye, and that's something you need to keep putting back on as you carve away wood, so that you've got a good reference point. You'll also notice that I drew two half round circles. Well, what this is this is the eye mound. We're going to round this mound down, and then we're going to cut the eye lids basically into this mound. A little bit talking about eyes. Generally speaking, the size of the eye is going to be the width of the nose, and it's also going to be lined up on the face from the edge of the nose, and that's the way you can get your size of the eye and also locate where it's going to be. One other thing is a lot of times when I'm carving a wood spirit or a Santa Claus maybe, I'll have a big nose on a carving, and in that case, generally speaking, I won't make the eye quite as large as the width of the nose. I'll get the width and shrink it up just a little bit so that the eye looks better. So the first step is to go ahead and draw these half round circles with that center line through it, and then we'll move on to the next step. One other thing to mention here, if you'll notice I drew this line, it's perfectly horizontal more or less. If you're going to carve a woman's eye or an Asian eye or sometimes even an Indian eye, at the outside corner this line can be raised up some. Also, if I'm going to carve like a wood spirit or somebody that looks kind of mean, a lot of times I will drop the outside point down a little bit low horizontal, and that can give you a very sinister eye sometimes. So now we'll move on to the next slide and start doing some carving. Okay, we're starting to carve here, and what we're doing is we're going to take that 1.5 to 3 millimeter veiner or a V-tool, and you're going to cut from top to the center of the line on that outside curved line, and you're going to come to the bottom and you're going to cut back to the center there. And as you cut, you will deepen it. The deepest part of that cut will be right at that horizontal center line, and you need to make it fairly deep. Also note that at the outside corner of the eye, it needs to be a little bit deeper than the inside corner. And you'll also notice on this slide that on the right hand side is going to be the outside corner, and you'll notice that I took my V-tool or gouge and came on out that line. And what you're doing there is you're going to start opening up the outside so that when you look at the carving in profile, you're going to be able to see your eye. Okay, here's where we start rounding or putting curvature into this eye mound that we've gotten. You'll notice that the picture there says round to the bottom of the ditch. You're going to come up on the eyeball. You don't have to come all the way to the center, but on the eye mound, and you're going to round back down into the ditch, not an angle. Please don't cut an angle. You're making a round mound here, and you'll take a small shallow gouge, like a number 3 or maybe a number 5 and 1/8 of an inch or so, depending on the size of the eye, just what you can work comfortably with. And you will take small slivers at a time. You don't try to do it all at one time, but you're going to round down into the ditch. Now, the smoother and the rounder you get your mound, the better off your eye is going to be, so take your time. Also, after I get it rounded down, if you take a look on the right hand side of this picture and compare it to the last frame, you'll see that I opened that outside corner up a little bit more. I took a number 5, about 5/16 inch gouge, and I just kind of gently opened that up. You can tell the difference when you look back at the other picture. And I do that so that, once again, when you look at this carving in profile, you'll be able to see the eye, and it looks more natural. Okay, now that we've established the curvature of the eye, we're going to come back and you're going to draw in the horizontal center line that we had, and you're going to draw the top eyelid line. You'll start off in the corner by the nose, and you start off right on the horizontal line, right in the bottom of the ditch. You come up about 45 degrees, and then you roll that line back down, and it intersects the horizontal line in the outside corner of that ditch, and then you let that line extend on down below the horizontal line. Now, you'll notice that I haven't made this eye open too much. When you're talking about eyes, sometimes if you're carving an Indian or a wood spirit or somebody that's going to be outside a lot, you'll find out that they have kind of squinty eyes. They're not big and round. Some women may have an almond shaped eye, and it may be a little bit more round, but you're going to find, especially for wood spirits and Indians, mountain men, that it's going to look better that if you have a kind of a squinty looking eye. Alright, now you're going to take a good sharp detail knife, and you're going to cut this top eye line that we just laid out. You want to cut it in, a good 1/16 of an inch or so, maybe a little bit bigger if you got a bigger eye. You want to make sure that you're cutting straight up and down and not undercutting this at all. And you just cut that line all the way out, and then you're going to come back and you're going to come from the bottom of your eye mound up to the top. And as you cut this out, you've got to keep that eye curvature that you established in the earlier carving. Now, you need to keep this as smooth as possible. And one way you can tell if you're staying with that curvature is to look at the little margin up at the top eye line where you cut it. If that's even all the way across, then you're looking good. And also, sometimes it's helpful, by the way, to use a skew. It can be a little bit easier sometimes to get it round. I also want you to notice on the outside of the eye, which would be on the right here, that I take a knife or a skew, and from the eyeball on out on that little bit of line, you want to take that lower too. You want to tuck the bottom eyelid under the top eyelid.